Well, we're excited to be back with another episode of the Raise Your Bars podcast. I'm here obviously with Chris Baker because who else would I be here with right now?
Well, nobody,
Virtually
hopefully.
Chris. And I'm excited, Chris, because we're recording this mid-August here. It's going to be going out to our audience soon, and we've been, you've been probably a little bit more diligent than I have of really studying this Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor. We both read it. Now we're going back through and sort of studying on it, and that's where
Mhm.
our podcast topics are coming from. And I think that this is it. Actually, folks, if you haven't read the book, go buy the book. Okay, Bob did a
Yeah.
great job writing this book. Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life is what it's called. And I think it's sort of reinvigorated us with our purpose and our
Mhm.
desire. And we're actually going to talk about purpose tonight to the point where we're investing in ourselves and bringing in our coach. And we're gonna head to. We're all meeting in Toronto mid-September to just spend a day locked in a room and really strategizing and planning uh, our business
Yeah.
and how we're moving forward. And I think it's kind of ties in with what we're going to talk about tonight. And he says in the book, he says, spend time working on your purpose. And I think, Chris, we've spent many a podcast episode talking about, Simon Sinek's Find Your Why and discovering your purpose and your burning desire and stop drifting through life and so on and so forth. But
Mhm.
I think that again we come back to it because I think it's so important. So many people are walking through life not really sure what they were designed, created, evolved, whatever you want to say, folks,
Yeah.
to do in this life. Was I
Yeah.
just put on this planet to to go through life existing, or am I here for a reason with a purpose? And I think a lot of people are lost in that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people and a lot of businesses too, right? And again, when we talk about all of this, it applies to business, it applies to personal, it applies to relationships, whatever it is, whoever you are, this applies to you.
Mhm.
And with the purpose, it's like, what are people? What when you ask somebody what's your purpose, right? They'll generally tell you what they don't want, right? Or they might say, "Oh, I want to earn lots of money," or whatever. That's not a purpose, right? And I like how Bob Proctor describes it in here, because what his purpose is very, very similar to what ours is, right?
Yes.
But he says that again at this in this chapter, he went away for about 3 days with a couple of friends and he worked on his purpose, and that's what we're doing, right? This is what prompted me to say we should do this, right? Um, and he said, I determined that my purpose is to live and work in a prosperous environment that encourages productivity and pleasure so that I can improve the service I render to my family, my community, my company, my nation, and ultimately the world.
Wow.
It's one of service,
Yes.
right? And that, I believe, is really the that's what it's about. Again, this is not about him, right? It's about what he can offer to other people,
Exactly.
knowing full well that if he does that and he renders that service to all of those people, he's going to be prosperous, right? He's
Exactly.
going to get the money. So you don't
Yeah.
go into it say, I want to be a millionaire, right? I want 10 million in the bank. I want to earn 1 million a month or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. Right? It's what do you stand? We talked about it before. What do you stand for? What do you want to be known for? What are you known for?
Right.
Right? And what's going to give you fulfillment and satisfaction every single day?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people think, well, oh man, how am I ever going to change the world? Well, you notice that he started with, I can impact my family.
Mhm.
And as I continue to grow myself and my purpose and dive into it and start living out that purpose, then my company, and then my community, and then my nation, and then the world, right? It's similar to what John has done with leadership transformation
Yep.
tables, right? He's never going to change the world, but he's going to change communities in
Right.
the world as he grows these and going on those transformation trips and doing these leadership roundtables that the Maxwell organization does around the world to the point where they have multiple invites from presidents of multiple countries to saying,
Mhm.
please come and do that here because we need those
Right.
values-based leadership training within our communities and within our countries. And I
Yeah.
think Bob living out here, and I just want to add one more line that he said here, Chris, after you stop reading, he says, and he goes, this is what I do. I do it every day from early in the morning until early evening.
Yeah.
He's getting up with intentionality and focusing on his purpose so he can ultimately change the world. And Bob touched millions of lives around the world
Right.
before his passing and continues to
Well,
do
he
through
still does.
faith,
Right.
through his books.
Yeah.
He's impacting us today, and he's been dead. He passed away, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah. It's all that legacy as well, right? And this
Exactly.
again is it's servant leadership. Last week I delivered a full day workshop to senior leaders at Disney about servant leadership, the Maxwell corporate um, uh,
It's so
program.
good. It's such a good
And
workshop.
it is, and when you look at it again, it's the servant leadership is about what you give to others, right, and how you deliver that. And this is what Bob's talking about. And in that, it talks about the law of addition, right? So the law of addition is if I'm a servant leader and I work with you and I add value to you, and then you become a servant leader, we've added. But then when you go and then you go and serve somebody else, and then I'm serving somebody else, we then move into that law of multiplication, right? And that is how we can move from serving your family, serving your company, serving your community, to serving your nation and serving the world. Is yes, you can't do it alone, right? John says, one is too small a number for significance, right?
Exactly.
Well, this is why we do what we do, to impact and influence other people, whether it's individuals, whether it's companies, whether it's our family. I've been I was talking about this with Vicky, and we were talking about dieting. And Bob Proctor's got a great example on that later in the book. But I look at it and say it's the same thing, right? It's what's your purpose for dieting? What's your purpose for whatever goal it is you're setting? If you don't know the purpose of it, you're probably not going to achieve it, because when things get hard, you give up, all right, and you move
Exactly.
on to something else,
Exactly. So was that really your purpose? Right. Like,
right?
and I think that again, folks, it doesn't have to be all this grandiose, like I'm going to change the world either. Maybe
No.
your purpose is just to be the best husband or father. You can be the best
Mhm.
wife, or that you can be the best employee at your
Yeah,
workplace.
yeah,
Uh, doing it to with a spirit of excellence, right? And I think we
right.
we talk a lot about that at our church, Chris. Like, just but and you've talked about it before, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it can be, we could strive for excellence. We've talked
Right.
about having that spirit of excellence. And I think that, we need to intentionally spend time on our purpose. And again, if we don't know it, and I I've run groups before, and this is recently. So with people, 40 plus years old, sitting on a sofa in my living room, talking about and going around the room and saying, "Do you know what your purpose is?" And people going, "I have no idea.
No,
I have no idea."
no.
And I think that's where, outwitting the devil, Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil, that's where
Yeah,
the adversary in the world tries to get people to drift by not really discovering or living out their purpose.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Bob actually talks about this. He says, if you do know your purpose, right? He actually gives us some steps here. If you have not found your purpose, he's saying recommend setting aside 10 to 15 minutes every morning. Put a pen and pad someplace where you can sit quietly. If you drink coffee, make yourself a cup of coffee, go to your spot, sit there and ask, what do I love doing?
yeah,
Chris and I love doing this. We
yeah,
love seeing people have that light bulb moment where they make that change in their life that's going to help them live out their purpose or reach their fullest potential. We love working with businesses and seeing them have those aha moments where
mhm,
they see all of a sudden that they can turn the corner and start reignite the passion that they once had for their business. This
yeah,
is our purpose.
right. Yeah, and that's why, like I said to you earlier, Al, right? I had a last minute opportunity to go to Epcot tonight for an IAPA event, like a dessert party followed by the fireworks. And, I said, actually, I can't, I've got a commitment. Right. And my commitment was to Al to do this podcast, but because it's our purpose, right? We enjoy doing it. We want to do it. We want to give back, but it also uplifts us. And when I look at purpose as well, I also think about, with the, I'm getting ready to do a book study with our leadership academy at Disney around The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And your purpose needs to be infinite, right? Whereas most people have it as a finite. And the finite is again the difference in my opinion, right, humble opinion, between finite and infinite is the difference between perfect and excellence. Right? Perfect indicates that there's a finish line, right? Finite. Right?
Yeah.
When you get there, it's done. Because if you reach perfection, there is no better than that. That's the definition of perfection, right? Cannot be improved. Whereas excellence is always an evolving um, thing, right? Because once you get there, you're stretching, you're going for more. And it's like John Maxwell says, we always keep growing. Like Bob Proctor says in here, where yeah, you start with impacting your family and serving your family, but then it goes and goes and goes and goes, right? And so your purpose needs to follow the infinite model. It doesn't need to be a finish line.
No,
It's um a serving, a feeling, an emotion, whatever, right? It's not like I want to earn $1 million, right? Or I want to be a leader in my company, or I want a promotion. That's a good goal, but the goal should be a stepping stone towards your purpose, and it should align with your purpose.
exactly. Exactly. And I think that's too another thing when you talk about aligning with your purpose, this thought popped into my mind. When we know our purpose, when all those things that come along, like maybe a promotion is not what you need right now.
Right.
Maybe that would go against your purpose or pull you
Yep.
off track from
Yep.
your purpose. So again, knowing our purpose helps us filter through all the distractions that are going to
Hmm.
come our way to keep pushing forward and working towards something. Chris
Right.
and I investing money, right? We're investing money to go to Toronto to spend a weekend working on our purpose, our vision, our mission, the structure of our
Yep.
business, so on and so forth. It's not cheap, right? It's not crazy expensive. It's not cheap though either, right? It's an investment in ourselves. And I think so many
Right.
people are unwilling to invest in a coach, invest in
Yep.
training, invest in something to better themselves. And the beauty part of it is you can invest some time and listen to our podcast, and it's free.
Right.
It's free.
Right. The caveat to that though, Al, is if you just listen to it for
Yes,
free and you don't do anything, it's not going to change your life, right? It's not
exactly.
going to help you with your purpose. It's not going to help you achieve the goals that you want and achieve fulfillment in life, or whether that's financial freedom or whatever it is, right? You have to do the work.
Right.
And that's where I think the majority of people stumble, because they don't know their purpose. It's not clear. That desire is not red or white hot burning desire, like Napoleon Hill says in Think and Grow Rich, right? It's like, well, if that happened, it'd be nice, but do you really believe it? Right? Do you believe it's going to happen, or will you believe it when you see it? Well, if you'll only believe it when you see it, guess what? You're never going to see it,
Too late. Too late.
right? Yeah,
So Earl Nightingale here said, Bob Proctor quotes Earl. I love Earl Nightingale. He's
yeah.
brilliant, brilliant. Earl Nightingale said, "You don't go to work for money. You go to work for satisfaction." Okay, so that's going to rock a lot of people's boats right there.
Yeah.
And again, if you're a business owner and entrepreneur, hopefully you're doing something that brings you great satisfaction, even though it's work, right? Everything's work. You got to work, right?
Right.
You got to work. You got to do something. But you don't go to work for money. You go to work for satisfaction. You provide service to earn money.
Hmm.
Okay. If and then Bob says if you're on purpose, you're going to get tremendous satisfaction from how you spend your days. I do because everything I do is on purpose. And then the next line I want to chat about for a little. He says, you may wonder whether your purpose is created or discovered. I believe it is discovered.
Hmm.
That's quoting Bob.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, you know, you oh gosh, I mean, I was having this conversation yesterday with somebody at work, and we were talking about their creativity and innovation and dreaming and all of these things, and people say, you know, and thinking about things, and we was talking about how we're not taught that in school, right? We're taught to memorize things, to pass tests, because the schools are judged on the grades that their student get. When you go to university, college, depending on what country you're in, again, you choose a subject, not necessarily because you think it's going to be something you're going to enjoy doing, but maybe it's something you think, oh, I can get a degree in this, is not too challenging, or maybe it is something of interest. um, but again, what are we taught? We're taught to memorize things, to pass, to get a grade, to get the GPA, because that's how the universities and the colleges are graded. And then when we come out of that system, what do? You know, we don't know what we want. Right, but
Exactly.
when you go back and you look at children, children have got wild imaginations. They believe anything is possible. You know, they'll keep trying and trying and trying, and if they quote unquote fail, they get back up and they do it
Back up
again
again.
until
Yeah.
we knock that imagination out of them as adults, right? When
I
they
think we
reach in their teenage years.
And we not only knock that imagination out of them, we knock that will and that
Right,
desire to keep trying out of them
right.
as well. "Ah, you failed at that. You're no good at that.
Mm,
You're not gifted in that area. You shouldn't focus
correct.
on that." I mean, when I
Yeah.
was in high school, I mean, I had a fairly rough childhood, broken home, blah, blah, blah. I don't wanna, dwell on that. But because of certain things that were happening in my life during my elementary school years, um, when I was going into high school, they suggested that I would go into they had what was called back in the day a level 4 and level 5.
Hmm.
Level 5 was just an elevated, and they suggested because of my grades in elementary school that I go into the level 4 program. Well, some stuff was going on in my life then, so of course my grades weren't that good. I go to high school and I excelled at that level 4 program. I found it actually easy. Um, and I should have done the level 5, but then by the time, oh, it's too late now, you can't change, right? So
Yeah.
again, I was told I was put in that box, you
Right.
know, instead of giving the opportunity to say, well, go give it a try, right? Go
Yeah.
give it a shot. And I think a lot of people are trapped in that box that somebody else has put around them saying, you can't
Hmm.
do this. You're not
Right.
smart enough. You're not good enough. You're not pretty enough, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And that
Or
becomes the reality.
yeah, exactly, and that's the point where you know, it's sort of a long way round saying that we're told what to think, right? We're told how to behave, and we're not told to think and discover what our purpose is, right? So if we say our purpose is what we're given it, we're setting the bar low, because other
Yeah.
people are telling us what to think and what we're capable of and what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing, right?
Right. Yeah.
We need to break free of those shackles and take that time to discover what is our purpose, because it could be that we're on completely the wrong track, right? That we're just drifting through life and we're doing, hey, this is what I've been told I'm capable of, and that's it,
Right.
right?
Or you're
But we
climbing
are
that corporate ladder, and guess what? The ladder's against the wrong building,
right.
right?
Yeah,
We've
it's the
heard
wrong
that
ladder.
saying before.
Yeah, it is, but we then have got that fear of moving away from what is like maybe a comfort level, even if we don't enjoy it, because you know, when we're striving and going after a purpose and we're really stretching ourselves, guess what? It can be scary, right? It can be scary, and that's why 95% of people, 97% of people don't do it.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
the question is, do you want to be one of the 96, 97%, or do you want to be one of the 3 or 4% that actually does change the world
Yeah.
by
I'll give you a
changing
hint.
their own paradigm, right?
The
And
right answer is 3 or 4%, okay? What's we're
right.
we're at 19 minutes. What are we sending people out? I mean, maybe just the challenge today
Right.
is to spend some time working on your purpose.
Right. Yeah. Just thinking about that. And even if you do that, get the cup of coffee and think about, what do I love doing? Right. And then when you're looking at what do I love doing, it's why do I love doing that? Right. What is it about that that makes me happy? Right. What is it that gives me that satisfaction when I'm doing that? And maybe I lose all sense of time because I'm just doing that, and time just drifts by because I'm so happy in that moment, right? And
Exactly.
dig deep into that and find out what it is, and then it's really then learning to identify, well, okay, well, how can I live that? and
Yeah.
and again, folks, you're not going to do this overnight, right? You're not going to do
No,
it just by doing that
don't put
exercise.
that pressure on you.
But that's where we encourage you to reach out to us on social media, to join Raise Your Bars Facebook group. Put comments in, ask questions in there. Even request some time with Alan and I in there, right? We'll spend that time with you, because
Absolutely.
that is our purpose, is to help other people find their purpose, to identify what it is in life, to live to their best, the best version of themselves, and to find that satisfaction and fulfillment in their life.
Yeah,
Because here's what I know, Al, if everybody in the world was fulfilled and was living a life of satisfaction and purpose, wouldn't the world be a better place?
absolutely. And you know what? It's possible.
It is
It's
possible.
possible.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you have an amazing week. And don't forget, raise your bars. Talk to you next time.
Bye.